What's going on, everybody? Good morning and happy Wednesday. Dan Kasper Show's on the air. Radio dials, couple of those babies, 105.1 FM, 790 AM. Also available online at sportstalk1051.com. Can get the YouTube video link up there. Otherwise, it's available on Facebook and Twitter as well. Stream it there. Google and Alexa home devices, Sports Talk app. But appreciate you all tuning in on this if you haven't headed out on the roads yet, it's really, really slippery out there. At least it was a couple of hours ago. So be careful out there. And in fact, we've got quite a bit of schools with some late starts or even closed this morning, too. So let's just get to some of these here. Your school closings and delays brought to you by our good friends at Service Master of Chippewa Valley and Hovlands. We've got Altoona. You're going to be delayed a couple hours. Arcadia, you're closed. Online learning day. Amory, opening late a couple hours. Augusta, opening late a couple of hours. Baldwin Woodville, delayed. Black River Falls, delayed for a couple hours. Blair Taylor, closed. Boyceville is going to be delayed a couple hours. Cadott, you're going to be delayed a couple of hours. Chippewa Falls, going to be delayed a couple of hours. No 4K there. Cochrane Fountain City, going to be closed. Colfax, delayed. Cornell, you're going to be closed today. Durand, Arkansas is closed. Eau Claire is going to be delayed a couple of hours. Oliva Strum, delayed a couple of hours. Elk Mound, opening late as well. Couple hours there. Elmwood, delayed 2 hours. Fall Creek, delayed 2 hours. Gilman, delayed 2 hours. Glenwood City, you're delayed a couple of hours as well. Greenwood, delayed a couple hours. Independence, closed. Virtual Learning Day. Lake Holcomb, you're delayed a couple of hours. Loyal, delayed a couple hours. McDonald, delayed a couple of hours. Melrose, Mindoro, delayed a couple hours. Menominee, you're also delayed a couple of hours. And then we've got Mondovi, delayed a couple hours. Necedah, Virtual Learning Wednesday. We got Neilsville, delayed a couple of hours. Nacoos, the Papermakers, you're going to be delayed a couple of hours as well. Osseo Fairchild, delayed a couple of hours. Regis, delayed a couple of hours. We got Spring Valley, delayed a couple hours. River Falls, delayed a couple hours. Staley Boyd, delayed a couple hours. Thorpe is a Virtual Learning Wednesday. So, yeah, big list, and they've came in hot this morning. So head to our website, sportstalk1051.com, for the latest school closings and delays. Again, brought to you by Service Master of Chippewa Valley and Hovlands. All right, what else do we got on the game plan here this morning? Bucks back in action tonight. It's going to be taking on the Hawks of Atlanta. Tip time at 6:30. We'll talk a little hoops along with the Badger Hoops team. Another loss last night, this time against Michigan State, 69-65. Badgers couldn't close it out at the end. They were up by a few, but Michigan State's getting hot there in the last couple of minutes. Couldn't miss a shot, and then that led to Michigan State picking up their fourth conference win. Badgers falling to 11-4 on the season, 3-2 in conference. Joey Hauser, the former Stevens Point kid, led the Spartans in scoring last night, 20 points overall for the Badgers. You had Stephen Quall with 19 points, 9 of 17 from the field. Chucky Hepburn, 14. Connor coming off the bench, putting up 13, but still not enough. Tyler Wall still missing some time due to that ankle injury. No word whether he will be available this weekend. According to Greg Gard, kind of still taking it day by day. But Greg Gard did say last night after the game that kind of trending, it's trending upward, obviously, but maybe a little bit quicker than they initially had thought. But you kind of look at what Michigan State, Michigan State shot over 50% from the field and over 50% from three. 52.3% to be exact from the field and 53.8% from three. Badgers, meanwhile, 45.5% from the field, 39% from three. Michigan State wasn't missing free throws either. They were getting a line last night, 16 of 17 compared to the Badgers, just 6 for 8. And again, rebounding for the Badgers. They were getting dominated on the glass. Michigan State 33 compared to Wisconsin's 18. Almost doubled it up right there. So rebounding woes kind of continuing here a little bit for the Badgers. Michigan State did have 14 turnovers compared to the Badgers 5, but still wasn't enough. Couldn't do it. So we'll talk some hoops, talk some Bucks, and a little bit of Badgers as well. So we'll get to that coming up here in just a little bit later on. We're going to talk some baseball. Nothing really for the Brewers, but hey, 20s fans, Carlos Correa coming back. Like 3 teams in 28 days now? I mean, first, Carlos Correa. You know, it's like everybody's like wants to sign him, and then, the ankle issue comes up, and now it looks like he's going to actually go back to the Twins. First, it was the Giants. Then it was the Mets, where we were like, what the heck are the Mets? Spending more money. And now he's going back to the Twins because teams apparently a little bit worried about his ankle injury for the long-term future there. So, Correa, let's see if this one actually sticks now. But yeah, so we'll talk a little baseball. Still fairly quiet on the Brewers side of things here, but that doesn't mean we can't talk a little baseball here, especially since we got a good crop of 20s fans out there. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. Badger football picking up more transfer portal players too. Follow Luke Fickell on Twitter. The bat signal went out 3 times yesterday. 3 times yesterday. Badgers just killing it right now. Luke Fickell and his coaching staff killing it right now in the transfer portal. So they picked up another quarterback too. So I mean that room is just loaded. Will Pauling, wide receiver from Cincinnati, he's going over to the Badgers. Got kicker going over to the Badgers as well. Nathaniel Vakos. He posted up a picture in case anybody, I'll give you your like Instagram or social media update. He posted a picture him in his Badger uniform, but he's also with CJ Williams in that picture too. So, but Nathaniel going over from coming over from Ohio. I know we got some listeners who've got connections to Ohio, so he's coming over to the Badgers. Braden Locke coming over from Mississippi State, another quarterback. So, I mean, they're just dominating right now. Absolutely dominating in this transfer portal for the Badgers. And honestly, there's probably going to be more coming at this point. Just kind of adding on to the excitement for Badgers fans leading into this season. So we'll chat a little Badger football. Keep you updated if the bat signal from Luke Fickell, gets thrown out there. Later on this morning. We're going to do our usual showdown. We got that coming up in the 8 o'clock hour. Stock reports are due as well. So if you want to play along with us, you can send over your stock reports. Whose stock is rising? Whose stock is falling? You can hit us up with the text, tweets, Facebook, comment on the video stream. We're going to do a new segment today called Vigilante Wednesday. Vigilante Wednesday. So what that is, we're going to kind of have a little fun with this one. So we can go about it a couple of different ways here. So it's kind of like, sometimes we see something, we're trying to solve some sports crime, if you know what I mean. So like, for example, Georgia, what they did to TCU, that was a major crime. How do we fix that? How do we stop that from maybe happening? Or or something like that. We have a little bit of an open end. So we'll get to that at the back end of this hour. We'll get to that at the back end of this hour, but I'm going to call it Vigilante Wednesday here, where since we don't have the powers to change or fix things in the sports world, we're going to do that every Wednesday. So we'll get to that again at the back end of this hour. So we're going to kick off, or I should say, we're going to continue our Packers position coaching group, whatever we want to call it, kind of self scouting now that the season is over with. We talked a little bit about the coaching staff yesterday. We're just going to bite the bullet and get to this quarterback one now. Aaron was not on his regular spots with his good buddy Pat McAfee yesterday. Pat McAfee saying that Aaron was meeting with the Packers yesterday and will be today for longer meetings. Whether that means anything or not, I doubt it. He did something similar last year, meeting with LaFleur and Goody and Murphy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm sure that's going to be something where they tell him, hey, we want you to come back and blah, 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 and get maybe kind of an inside look or game plan what's on the priority list for the Packers in terms of their off-season plans. So with that, we're going to kind of take a look at the quarterback group, and really it just highlights a couple of them. It highlights two: Jordan Love and Aaron Rodgers. So obviously the biggest question of the offseason for the green and gold is going to be whether you want or whether Aaron Rodgers is going to come back or not. And if he does, what does that mean for the immediate future of Jordan Love? Do the Packers, because they kind of hold the majority of the cards, they still hold on to him? Do they look to maybe move on from him? Do they pick up that option for him? If Aaron does decide to retire, I don't think he'll be traded. But if he does decide to call it a career, how much confidence do you have in Jordan Love? So I guess I got a couple of questions for you all to kind of chime in on. One, do you want Aaron back? Two, do you have any confidence in Jordan Love? We haven't seen a whole lot. We saw a little bit this year against Philadelphia, which maybe kind of increased the confidence there a little bit. But if you had to kind of put it on a scale of 1 to 10 at this point, where would it be? Where would it be? So got those couple things out there. So let's just get into it right away here this morning. Let's get the brain juices flowing. So, but if you are driving, don't try to text, tweet, or Facebook or anything like that. Keep your focus on the road because it is slippery out there. So, but let's jump into it. Opening drive here this morning. We'll continue our green and gold self scouting series, if you will. Taking a look at the quarterbacks. We're going to get this one out of the way right away here. So, a couple questions I'll throw out to you all. Do you want Aaron back next year? Do you think Green Bay can compete next year? Maybe that's the other part of the question there too. Or would you rather see the Jordan Love era begin? And if Aaron does come back, do you hold on to Love, pick up the option, or do you see if you should can kind of get some trade capital back? Because I feel like if they trade him, I feel like then you still have to prioritize a quarterback in the upcoming draft. You're gonna have to. I'd rather not have Green Bay kind of do the Colts thing that they've done the last couple of years and just bring in a veteran every year or so and try to fill it in that way. Ain't working. So, what do you think? Let me know if you can this morning. Let's get things rolling here. Opening drive coming up in just a couple minutes. Self-scouting series continuing, highlighting the quarterbacks for the Green Bay Packers. Not just one, but two of them. This one should get interesting. We'll be back. Who doesn't love cooking up a good burger on the grill? Having a good burger is one of the most satisfying moments in your entire life. And now we have that perfect burger to put on the grill and create a more satisfying moment in your life. It's, of course, the Dan Good Burger, available only at Hy-Vee in Eau Claire. This burger has bacon, cheese, ranch seasoning all inside the patty to give you that perfect balance of taste and awesomeness in each bite. Pair it up with a man cave light that's available at Hy-Vee. Then you got yourself a winning combination there. So head on over to Hy-Vee in Eau Claire, grab yourself a few Dan Good burgers, fire up that grill, grab some man cave lights at the bar over there, get them in some crawlers and such, and you got a perfect night, date night right there. Got your Valentine's Day already planned out there, Pete. So Hy-Vee, baby, go check it out. Just pick up yourself some burgers and some brewskis. So, all right, let's get things rolling here on the opening drive this morning, kind of asking you to put your thinking caps on and give me some of your analysis out there. We're continuing our self scouting series when it comes to the green and gold. Now that we are officially in the off season for the Packers. Packers, yeah, they signed some free agents last year, but yesterday, but they're the future contracts, so nothing to get fully excited about. So, um, but oh, that was interesting. I didn't see that. Devontae Adams on Twitter last night on his Instagram put up a picture of Rodgers and Cobby saying so much love for these two changed my life, and then he blacked out the score on there too. So interesting. Anyways, okay. Just saw that pop up there. Somebody had retweeted it. So anyways, let's continue our self-scouting, taking a look at the quarterback situation here, Green Bay. We're just going to get this one out of the way because we know this is probably the biggest question heading into this offseason is, one, is Aaron going to come back? And if so, what do you do with Jordan Love? Do you keep him? Do you potentially look to trade him? Because sure looks like there's some teams out there that need some quarterback help. Could the price of Jordan Love be, a little bit higher than maybe it was last offseason, perhaps? Who knows? It just takes that one team, right? But it's an interesting time period here because, well, Packers will all decide whether they're going to pick up your option for Jordan Love, which, I mean, it'll be the 5th year option fully guaranteed. So you're talking about a nice chunk, but it won't happen until 2024. Because right now, 2023, Jordan Love's cap hit is just $3.9 million. $3.9 million. So that cap hit, that 5th year option won't hit until 2024. But the thing is, if you do that, Aaron comes back. You got the kind of the 1 year for Jordan Love, assuming Aaron would only play one more year. That's the other part in this whole thing is like, we're kind of assuming maybe Aaron only plays one more year at this point. It's a dicey situation. It's a tricky situation. Obviously, I think Goody and the Packers and such would rather know, ideally in a situation how long or how much longer Aaron would like to play or plans to play, so maybe they can figure that out. But that's not the case here. So, couple questions I threw out to you before we went to that break. One, would you like to see Aaron back? Or would you like to see the Jordan Love era begin? And then two, let's say Aaron does come back. What do you do with Love? What do you do with Love? For me personally, I'll start with that second part, the second question. If Aaron does come back, the Packers hold the cards for Jordan Love. I think you still pick up the 5th year option. I think you control that. It stinks for a guy like Jordan Love. Let's be real. It stinks that, all right, might be a 4th year sitting on the bench. But I think if you look at it from a business standpoint, if I'm the Packers, I think you hold on to him. I don't think you look to move him unless you get a like a deal that would just blow you out of the water. So what's that deal? If it's a first round pick, I'm thinking about it. I'm really actually thinking about it for a first round pick at that point. If it's an early second round pick, I might have to think about it there a little bit too. But the problem is if you move on from Love, you know you're going to have to address the quarterback position in the draft early. So, all right, you got Aaron coming back. Okay, you got Aaron coming back. I don't know how much Green Bay is going to be able to do in free agency because of their cap hits and some of the money that they're going to have available. So, I mean, you, I don't know how much they're going to be able to go out there and try to bring in players that you would think would be able to help out for the upcoming season. So maybe puts a little bit more pressure on some rookies and such to contribute again. But if you're going to use one of those picks early on a quarterback, well, that person's not going to be able to contribute that early. We have seen rookie quarterbacks go out there, younger quarterbacks go out there and have solid seasons, of course. We've seen that. They're maybe a little few far in between, but it's possible. But if it were me right now, it would have to take a first rounder or a very early second rounder for me to think about trading Jordan Love if Aaron was coming back. If Aaron decides to come back. If he decides to come back, I hold on to Jordan Love unless I get that price tag. And then if I do end up trading Jordan Love for a first rounder or an early second rounder, then you have to really kind of maybe focus on this draft and finding another replacement. Finding another replacement. So what else? What was the other question? The other question there being too. Do I want the Jordan Love era to begin? That's a tough one. Because I think you have to ask yourself right now, currently, do the Packers have a team that can compete for a Super Bowl? Do they have a team that can compete for a Super Bowl? Selfishly, it'll be similar to like when Favre left and retired and came back and played for a different team and all that sort of stuff. But but this one I keep kind of going back and forth on it, to be honest with you. Selfishly, yeah, I would like to see Aaron play as long as possible just because, all-time great, that sort of thing. But from a business side of things, is it necessarily the best thing? And looking at this team, is it a team that you think can compete? Right now, I mean, I would say the arrow's trending a little bit down or very stagnant because I'd put Minnesota up there. I mean, Detroit right now, I'd put them above Green Bay. Assuming, the rookies will be able to contribute, or I shouldn't say contribute, but take another step in their sophomore year, like the Romeo Dobbs and maybe Quay Walker maturing a little bit more, Devontae Wyatt's getting more playing time and being a consistent starter out there and that sort of thing. But then you're like, oh, what about sophomore Walls and that? But the thing is, to me, I don't know how much Green Bay can actually do in the offseason to really improve this team. I mean, they're going to have to pull some voodoo magic tricks in free agency, and they can. I mean, they can keep deferring money and keep pushing it, down the road, a little a la like the Rams and the Saints for I guess some comparisons out there. That's a toughie. Because if Aaron comes back, that goal is still, or that expectation is still Super Bowl. If it's Jordan Love, I think from a fan standpoint. Now, if you ask Green Bay and front office and the coaching staff and all that, they're going to say that their goal is always going to be to compete for championships and Super Bowls. But from a fan standpoint, I think if the Jordan Love era began, that expectations maybe a little bit down. That goal is maybe a little bit down. You know what I mean? Like maybe it's not as high. I mean, if Aaron decides to come back, I'll be like, all right, let's do it. Let's do it up. But then I'm like, I think that pressure shifts a whole lot more to Goody and LaFleur in terms of like, all right, LaFleur, coaching wise, you better make sure you have the right coaches, the play callers on staff to best utilize the talents that you currently have on your team. Do you have the confidence in Joe Barry to have a consistent, good defense? Because that's going to have to take a step. If LaFleur decides to relinquish play calling duties, does he have the confidence in that play caller, or is it going to be another Mike McCarthy situation where McCarthy gave it to Tom Clements, but then ends up taking it back like halfway through the season? That desperate times, you could just sense the desperation and the pressure there. And then pressure on the front office and Goody and such, like, okay, you've got Aaron coming back. How do we, in our limited resources, try to put together a team that might only be a 1-year sort of thing? Do we have the finances? Do we have the ability to get creative with some contracts? Can we continue to push some money down the road to try to maybe go for it for one more year? Because it didn't work this year. Obviously, it was a huge failure. But you would expect maybe continued growth from your rookies that had a lot of playing time this past year. But you're going to have holes elsewhere too. Who's going to play tight end? Are you going to be able to bring back Tunyon? Alan Lazard, I personally don't think he'll be back. I think it'll be too much money. And then you got other decisions to make there too. So if Aaron does decide to come back, I think that pressure immediately gets put on the shoulders of the front office and the coaching staff to be like, okay, how do we get this so we can be a contender for one more year? Whereas if it's Jordan Love, you have a little bit of a grace period. I mean, they're still going to say, hey, we're trying to compete. We're going to go out there and our goal is still the same. But let's be real here. Fan expectations might be a little bit lower at that point. And the thing is, too, if Aaron retires, it's not like his cap hit goes completely away to where they can spend so much in free agency. Because if Aaron decides to walk away, if he decides to say, I'm done, I'm calling it, I'm a career, perhaps the best way to figure out that salary cap situation with the Packers and Rodgers maybe is something similar, if you remember a few years ago, with Drew Brees and the Saints. Drew Brees retired, but he signed a contract. He signed a new contract that kind of helped alleviate the cap hit here a little bit. And that's something that maybe the Packers and Rodgers would agree to as well if Rodgers decides to retire. One way would, according to Over the Cap, would be he could sign a new contract where his option bonus was eliminated and just his 1.165 salary remained. That would reduce Rodgers' salary cap charge to just under $17 million, and they would carry him on the roster as a procedural move until that post-June 1st. At that point, they could put him on the retire list, and then the salary cap charge in that case would be $15.8 million in 2023, $24.5 million in 2024. So there's that way. It's very similar to like when Drew Brees retired and he had that huge cap hit. And if you remember, he signed a contract. Well, it's to kind of, play the salary cap situation there. So there's options. There's ways to do it. But again, it'd be those 2 years where they're going to have a lot of dead cap money that they're going to have to carry on the books. It's a it's a tough situation. Like if I'm Goody, like if I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of Brian Gutekunst, and I'm just like, okay, if I got Aaron, I kind of know what to expect. I kind of know what to expect. There's maybe a little bit of nervousness because you get worried about age and that sort of thing. But at the same time, it's like, okay, I got Aaron. Now I got to figure out how do I build a team that can get back to the postseason, but not only get back to the postseason, be a threat to go and win a Super Bowl. It's gonna be tough, a little restrained, budget wise, cap wise. But at the same time, I'm the one who drafted Jordan Love. Maybe I'm getting a little anxious because that's the pick I made. I kind of maybe put, a lot of my legacy, reputation, career with that pick. I want to see him go out there and I want to see him play. I want to see what he can do. I mean, you can go about it a couple of different ways here. But ultimately, when it comes down to it, I think if Aaron does come back, then Green Bay's it's going to be almost I feel like a couple of different approaches come the offseason and the draft. It's going to be a couple different ways. Aaron comes back. I'm sure Jordan. I wouldn't be shocked if Jordan's representation. And remember, Jordan and Aaron share the same agent. They're going to probably ask, "Hey, can we get traded?" Green Bay doesn't really have to accommodate that unless Jordan's going to throw a hissy fit, which I can't see happening. Green Bay controls the cards. It's not that big of a cap hit, and they can pick up the fifth-year option. But if they do that, then they gotta figure out and address a rookie. Um, and then if you keep him, if Aaron comes back, it changes your offseason in the sense of like, how do you approach free agency? Are you able to do anything in free agency? Do you have to push more money down? Readjust these contracts to create some space. Whereas, okay, Aaron leaves, Aaron retires. You got Jordan Love, got a little bit more money to play with potentially in free agency, but maybe you look at different free agents, right? Maybe you're not looking for the 1-year veteran guys trying to fill in some spots, chasing a Super Bowl perhaps. Kind of approach it a little bit differently. There's a couple of ways to kind of go about it at this point. So I'll ask you, what do you prefer? Do you prefer Aaron Rodgers coming back next year? Or do you prefer to start the Jordan Love era? And the second part of that question is, if Aaron does come back, do you look to trade Jordan Love, knowing then that you're probably going to have to use an early draft pick to get another quarterback? How would you go about it? Hit me up with a quick tweet at DANKASPER, Facebook.com/Kasper Sports. And then you've got, you can comment on the video stream or hit me up with a text 715-830-1912. We'll see what you have to say. All right, quick break here. Then we'll finish up the first hour already this morning with some of your thoughts and all that good stuff. We'll be back. Don't forget to head to our website, sportstalk1051.com, and give us your brat flavor ideas. We're partnering up with Mike's Star Market, bringing you a couple of brat flavors and a snack sticks flavor. We know one flavor is going to be the Man Cave Light flavor, but we need your ideas, your thoughts on what the other flavor should be. So go to 1051.com, and then you just click on the enter and win tab, and then you'll see the icon there. Click it, and then fill in your couple ideas. A lot of good ones so far, but keep them coming. It'll only be up for just a couple of more days. Couple more days there. So again, sportstalk1051.com. Click on the enter and win tab to get your ideas out there. We'll take a quick phone call here this morning. Good morning. Who do we got? Nobody. It's not there. So whoever you were, go and try to give us a call back. Okay? Whoever you were, try to give us a call back. Looks like the majority of you so far on the texting line want Aaron Rodgers back. You want Aaron Rodgers back. You're not a whole lot of reasons why. Just it's kind of an informal poll there saying we want Aaron Rodgers back. All right, so I would say it's about quick math 65 saying yes, 65-70. All right. Honestly, I'm a little surprised. I thought it would be maybe close to 50-50, but I guess part of me kind of thought maybe there would be a good contingent thinking that they'd want to go to the Jordan Love era. A little surprised, though. But hey, keep those coming. All right, tweets, Facebook, video, texts, all that good stuff. And I know, if you saw the thing on, if you saw Pat McAfee's thing yesterday, where, I mean, he kind of teased it that because Aaron was going to be on next week, that they should, or that he thought that there could be some, some information regarding Rodgers' future and such. But remember too, Aaron did this last year where he stayed around a couple days after the season, had meetings with Goody and LaFleur and Murphy, and then we didn't know until, was it March, right before free agency? Yeah, we were somewhere in March there. So I doubt we'll hear anything before the Super Bowl. Could be completely wrong in this, but I doubt it. I think Green Bay obviously would love to know as soon as possible so they can figure out what the game plan is, because honestly, I feel like it's a couple of different game plans in terms of free agency and the plan to kind of, what do they do? That sort of thing. But would you rather have Aaron Rodgers back? Or would you rather have the Jordan Love era begin? And if you want Aaron Rodgers back, what do you do with Jordan Love? Really quick before Morgan pops in, we'll try the phone line again this morning. Good morning. Who do we have?
Good morning, El Capitano. I don't know what happened with the phone a little bit ago, but we got cut off.
No, I blame user, and that would be you, sir.
Well, that could very well be, my brother. It's a little bit icy out here, so everybody be careful.
Exactly.
You slow down, take your time. I'll tell you what, just like I want the Packers to do opposite, I don't want them to take their time with free agency. I think they need to make some moves and make one more run at it. Aaron Rodgers, as much as people want to complain, he still has it. I mean, he was off. He was dealing with a broken thumb half the season. He gives us the best chance to win, and we can make one more run at this thing. We got to try it.
Mm-hmm.
And they know. I mean, Joel was talking about it yesterday when you had him on. They know what they have in Jordan Love, and if Jordan Love was the future, they wouldn't have sold the farm to keep Favre on 1 to 3 years. So they got to make this run back with Rodgers, and I think they keep Love one more year. They're not going to trade him. Maybe next year if he's not the answer, but I don't see. I think Love, his cap, they don't have cap room to be messing around with different quarterbacks here. So I think we make one more run at her with Rodgers here, and we see what happens.
So really quick, let me ask you this: you mentioned a thumb injury. I remember when Favre broke his thumb in 2003. I don't know if you remember that too, and he played the season with that thumb injury. And it seems like people, or at least a louder contingent of fan base, aren't willing to acknowledge that could have affected Aaron Rodgers' play. Yet back in 2003, that was acknowledged that it could have affected, Favre's play. He threw 32 touchdowns, but he threw 21 picks as well. Is that just another, example of people just not liking Aaron Rodgers, do you think?
I think what it is Aaron Rodgers, and this is kind of the demons of being so dang good. He's compared to himself every year.
Mm-hmm.
So Favre slinging 21 interceptions was nothing new. He did it all the time. So people didn't complain about it because he was still out there gunslinging. Rodgers, let's face it, he lost 50% of his targets when Adams left. He had to spread those out to rookies, and he had to do so with a broken thumb and an offense that never found an identity throughout the entire season. So in my opinion, yes, I think the thumb had a lot to do with it. Is it entirely to blame? No. But at the same, he missed some open throws that we've seen him never miss. But you know what? He's still Aaron freaking Rodgers. He's still better than, 80% of the quarterbacks in the league, even with the broken thumb. So I think it's ridiculous that, people are calling for Jordan Love. You don't know what you got till it's gone. And I don't want him gone. I'd like to see at least one more year with him because he still can sling it, man. He has lost nothing on that arm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hey, I selfishly kind of agree too. So, all right, dude. Well, hey, you drive safe, bud. We'll chat again soon, okay?
Right on, my brother. Thanks for having me. Have a great day.
You got it. There you go. There's C-Bomb hopping off right now. What about the rest of you? Do you agree with what C-Bomb has to say, or do you go with a little bit of a maybe different approach out there? What do you got for me? Okay? Let me know. Text, tweet, Facebook, all that good stuff. Coming up next hour, we'll get to the Vigilante Wednesday, kind of a new segment that we're going to be doing on Wednesdays and such. And then we'll get to a little showdown coming up in the 8 o'clock hour. Get a couple more years out there. The busy Morgan this morning because of all the school delays and closings.
Quite a few closings and delays, but hey, you made my day with your Foo shirt there.
You like it?
That's a good throwback Foo Fighter shirt.
Yeah.
They're headlining in Boston.
Are they?
Yeah, they just announced that they were going to be part of the bash out there.
Nice.
So that'll be nice. How was your Dave Grohl experience on that book, by the way? Is that on the must-read list or?
It's good.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's good.
Okay.
It's solid.
All right. I know you guys are talking QBs today and whether or not there's any love for love, or are you going to keep Rodgers? So we're throwing a wrench into it with the Wednesday wild card. Take a break from that. What's your pick, though? You're going deep into Rodgers one more year?
I'm a selfish fan, and I don't like goodbyes. So
grab the tissues.
I remember when Favre called it. I still remember that day, March 4th, 2008.
A little emotional.
Got woken up by one of my college roommates. All he said was, turn the TV on, and he walked out.
Okay.
Walked down the stairs, saw another roommate, and all we did was hug.
Where are you at, though, if you see 12 in other colors?
No.
If he does the whole, Jets to the Vikes thing, which I think really is a blemish on Favre. I understand wanting to play the game and stuff, but like you could have left kind of a hero off the Packers stage if there wasn't that whole Jets and Vikings minute,
No, and I know Brady, he might be playing for his third team in that, but I don't know. Call me old school. I like sticking with the one team.
So do I. But if Rodgers didn't and he bounced, what colors would you put him in? What would you say is the most likely jump if that were to happen? Not to get C-Bomb upset here because I know that
Raiders.
He's yeah, really? Okay.
Yep.
Well, here we go into the wild card then. We're going to have Kasper answer us this Wednesday wild card shuffled up. What do people underestimate about you? That's what you get to answer today.
Underestimate about me?
Probably your fashion sense.
Stop.
You're kind of like a fashion dude.
No.
You're runway ready.
No.
I don't think I've ever seen you wear the same shirt twice, and I mean that.
Well, you've seen me wear the Space Jam one.
It's
few far in between.
Special occasions only. I don't think that you by for sure have more clothes than I do in your closet.
Oh, I would have probably, yes. I have a lot of t-shirts.
Yeah, you're not like a wear it again kind of dude.
Well, I wouldn't say that.
There was this rumor in the 90s that Usher
About me?
wore one outfit and then he would, instead of just, washing his
Usher
clothes.
was around in the 90s?
Okay, early 2000s.
Okay.
He would take his clothes and just like get rid of them after he wore an outfit, that he would just buy new clothes to wear every day. And I feel like you're right there on the cusp of that kind of behavior.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yep. So that's what I would say. What do you think people underestimate about you?
That's a tough one. Oh, and we're out of time.
Your ability to
Yeah,
answer questions.
That too.
Yeah. Mhm.
Second hour on this Wednesday morning, a very slippery Wednesday morning at it. Lots of delays. We got some closings as well. You can get the list at our website, sportstalk1051.com. Brought to you by Hovland's and Service Master of Chippewa Valley. But for some of our immediate ones, Eau Claire, you're getting off to a couple hours late starts. Chippewa, Regis, McDonald, couple hours, but there's a whole lot more. So check it out online. We'll keep you posted. Maybe if like Altoona's delayed a couple hours, if any of those maybe change to full day out there. Coming up this hour, we got a new segment on Wednesdays called Vigilante Wednesday. We'll get to that, let's say in about 10 minutes or so. We got Showdown coming up in about an hour. Stock reports at 7:50, but we kick off this hour with some sports nuggets brought to you by Ansi Associates. 1953, J. Edgar Hoover declined a six-figure offer to be president of the International Boxing Club. 1970, Billy Casper became the second golfer in history to top the 1 million mark in career earnings when he won the Los Angeles Open golf tournament. 1973, owners of the American League baseball teams voted to adopt the designated hitter rule on a trial basis. That seemed to work out fairly well. 1976, Dorothy Hamill won her third consecutive National Figure Skating Championship. Let's go with the 1995 NHL owners and players ended a 103-day lockout. It was announced that the regular season would be reduced to 48 games and would start January 20th. Let's go with, I remember this, 2007. It was announced that David Beckham had signed a 5-year, $250 million contract with the Los Angeles Galaxy. In fact, I remember actually making sure I was going to watch his first game with the Galaxy. That might have been my first soccer game I ever watched.
Really?
Yeah, I remember turning it on in good old Medford. Well, I think it was on ESPN, just kind of checking it out. I bought into the hoopla, and I still didn't become a soccer fan after that.
Yeah,
But
I mean, I think a lot of people were like, "Ooh, wow!"
it was like all the stars were there and all that, and so. 2010, Mark McGuire admitted that he used steroids on and off for nearly a decade, the time frame including the 98 season when he broke the single-season home run record. In 2014, an arbitrator reduced Alex Rodriguez's drug suspension from 211 to 162 games. So those are just some of your sports nuggets for this morning.
Oh, and by the way, Usher was around in the 90s.
Was he Usher in the 90s, though?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like You Make Me Wanna that was my sophomore year at college.
The only time,
that was a huge hit.
I think the first time I probably heard of Usher was Confessions, that album.
Really? That's like 3 albums in. Well, I mean, he even had more before that, but that was lesser scale. But 97, he became a star. 01, he had what was that? Because he had all these songs that began with "You." I've lost track. Like "You Remind Me," stuff like that. And then that was like his third superstar album was the Confessions one.
Because that was the one that had "Yeah" on it, right?
Yes. Okay. That was a mega star album by that point.
Yeah, that's probably the first time I.
Not a bad album. I mean, if you're going to join Usher late, join on that album.
So that was 04, 05?
That was 04.
Yeah,
I still remember spring of 04 when that all came out. I was like, oh my gosh, that was Usher was like occupying society by that point.
Yeah, that was my graduated high school that year, so that would have been right in the wheelhouse. Remember
class theme song? Yeah.
No, ours was in the 80s actually.
Do classes still have theme songs?
I don't know. That's a good question. Do they still have a graduating song?
I mean, granted, my class didn't, but
you didn't have a song?
No, that was never that. If we did, I didn't hear about it. And granted, we had a bigger class because, of course, it's Memorial, so you have 300 plus kids. But sorry, but my class didn't exactly have the greatest school spirit. We were the one that when we had the pep rally in the gym, 7th hour, and they went to each class one year and they came to our class to rev us up and we all just sat.
Nice.
And like no one did anything. It was like, okay. But no, I don't think there were class songs for anyone else. Maybe that's more of a smaller school thing. I don't know.
I don't yeah,
but we never had one.
Oh, we had one. We had White Snake. Here I go again.
Yes.
Yeah, that was one. So we did not fall in the trap of like picking the graduation song or Green Day or anything like that.
Thank gosh.
I don't know. I did not vote for White Snake, but I don't know what I voted for because there was 3 of them on there.
Well, as long as it's okay, okay. That Green Day song is not the song to choose because that's not the actual song title is Good Riddance.
Yeah.
I mean, unless that's your goal is to be like, hey, this all sucked. We're moving on. People always think, oh, it's a sweet song. Remember, no, it's not. Like, listen to the actual lyrics.
I blame Seinfeld because Seinfeld had that as their song for like one of their wrap-up episodes.
They did. I hate it. Actually, I hated that part of like the Seinfeld wrap-up because it was such an ironic show, and that was like the one moment they're like, let's be serious. Like, stop. That's not you. But that song, Wonderful by Everclear, that has been misused a ton. Glad you guys didn't do that one because that's not a happy song either.
I can't remember what the other ones were.
Not Vitamin C.
I think it was on there. That's why I said I'm glad it didn't get picked. Graduation song. Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know what the
other.
Yeah, I don't remember what the other ones were. So, but I know I didn't vote for White Snake, but that's the one that got it. So,
okay.
Anyways, there you go. So, okay. Hey, I do have to mention my Kraken on our 6-game winning streak. Just saying.
Again?
So, yeah, just gonna throw that out there. I know we talked a little hockey yesterday with Kyle from the Steel and such, but just every time I can brag about the Kraken to you, especially, I'm gonna try to drop some hockey knowledge on you once in a while.
You're learning about the hockey.
Yeah, I am.
Very good.
So what do you make about your Twinnies getting Carlos Correa back?
I like it.
Are you concerned with the ankle like the Giants and the Mets apparently were?
I mean, yeah, but they're getting a discount compared to what the Giants and Mets were offering. The Twins know him. I mean, they had him in their organization for a whole year and was not with the Giants or Mets. So there was a certain expectation of either they think they can manage whatever they've got, they can move him however they want to move him. Something makes more sense to the Twins that they came back for Carlos Correa. I like the fact that he's locked in now. Like I feel more excited about this than and not like super like we're gonna win the World Series. Though I do think it definitely helps. I think they're probably borderline co-favorites with Cleveland to win the Central. Now that doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to be anywhere close to favorites to win the American League, but they are a better team with Carlos Correa on. His defense is going to start to suffer as he ages. He's not that fast of a player compared to some of the others, but offensively, he's really good. Generally in the field, he's really good. Even with the 2022 decline, that might have been a one-season thing, and I don't think you look at that and go, well, he's an average. He still had like about a 5 WAR last year. Depending on which WAR you look at, he's about a 5. Well, I'll take an extra 5 wins above an average player, and in a division like that, those 5 wins could be enough to win the division, get you further along in the playoffs. So I like that they've got some really good players that can last a little while. Are we doing stock reports later on?
Yes, 7:45.
Okay.
Yep.
Because there's one other aspect to this, and I'm going to hold it for stock reports on this aspect that there's a reason to be optimistic about the team longer term. But just in terms of Carlos Correa playing for the team, yeah, they're better. If it's a question of would you rather have Carlos Correa or not? Like, okay, I'll ask for the Brewers. Would you rather have Carlos Correa or not?
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely.
So that's the thing. Yeah. Whatever the injury situation, whatever, you'd still rather have him than not acquire him.
It is interesting, though, too. And, because the Mets, who aren't afraid to spend any money, yet they got a little nervous with it. I am curious, I would love to know some more details with the whole thing. Did the Mets offer a similar deal to what the Twins did? You know what I mean? What was it about the Twins deal that, let's assume, and maybe they didn't. Maybe that's the thing too. They didn't, but I would think the Mets of all teams would have been like, hey, we'll offer you something similar to what the Twins did.
I wonder if it got down to the point of if it's a choice between the Mets or the Twins that Correa finally said, well, I actually kind of liked it in Minnesota, which there was a good amount of information out there that he really did like being there. Maybe it was, or I don't know that it was entirely clear, or maybe I just didn't get to read far enough to see if it was the organization of the Minnesota Twins, or was it like living in the Twin Cities, which is, we've seen a lot of times. An athlete goes to Minnesota, maybe they don't end up spending their entire career there, but they come back, they return. Well, it's that whole upper Midwestern, it's a nice place to live kind of thing.
Let me throw this out there, though, too. If there is concerns, obviously, with his ankle injury, did he maybe not want to play in a New York market where if something were to happen, he's going to be on the front and back page of all those papers?
Yes.
Does that factor into it a little bit?
I think to a degree it does. Now, he seemed to be the opposite of Jose Altuve in terms of reacting to the criticism of the scandal, the Astros scandal, where Altuve took it really hard, kind of felt hurt by the whole thing. He's like, at least what was being reported about him is like, I didn't do anything wrong. Why are you all mad at me? Like, they took it really personal and felt bad. Carlos Correa has kind of come across, I think, what George Springer was kind of this way too, or, well, not maybe Springer. I'm thinking more of Alex Bregman.
Yes.
More Bregman, of well, we didn't do anything wrong. We beat you.
More of the egocentric.
Exactly. Yeah. And that was my impression about Correa, that I don't know that he necessarily would care that much about the New York market, but maybe that's more of a factor than we think, especially when you are the fit. You're with all the high-priced contracts that are in New York, in the Mets organization. Correa might have been the face of that. Plus, it took until Correa's signing before the whole Mets freakout happened. Verlander went there. There was like, oh, okay, cool. Verlander goes to the Mets. Other guys have gone to the Mets. But when he went there, then it became, is baseball broken? Funny that we went through that whole cycle that it like dominated sports, was almost pushing the NFL off the headlines for that. And, that
actually didn't even happen.
No, it didn't. I mean, the issue is still there, that it was going to happen pending a physical. Just because the Mets payroll is going to be less, I don't think the concerns are now invalid. It's still, it could happen with another player tomorrow. Maybe not, because there's no one left. Right. It could happen next offseason. And the same argument applies. But I wonder how much of this also was Scott Boras wanting the big, high-profile location, a team that's closer to winning the World Series than the Twins, of the three that have been involved here.
Well, and we know Steve Cohen is he's going to spend money. So, I mean, Scott Boras, that's going to be like his bank account over there. Right. Like if he's got a big-time player, he knows he can go to a Steve Cohen and perhaps good chance that he's going to get a good deal over there for his client. Let's he's got open pocketbooks there.
Right. So. He's going to. Scott Boras's modus operandi has always been maximizing the value for his client. That's part of the reason why the 3-year opt-out after a year thing was done last year, because he wasn't finding a big long-term deal for Carlos Correa. So the Twins were willing to do a shorter-term thing. Everyone figured it was going to be rent to player. That's part of the reason why. When I saw that happen a year ago, I was like, cool, we got Carlos Correa, but he's totally going to be gone after a year. I couldn't buy into the Correa thing for the entire year, because I knew he was going to be gone. And essentially he then was. It feels better now knowing that, there's a no trade clause. It's guaranteed money for at least 6 years. Carlos Correa, short of a career-ending injury, will be a Minnesota Twin through 2028. There's nothing else around. He will be a Twin for the next 6 years. Lock. So,
I mean, unless there's a trade that he approves.
Well, yeah, and that would have to be. And if it gets to that degree, then that's because
Twins are underperforming.
Yeah, way rebuilding, and everyone decides we need to get better by getting rid of Carlos Correa. Kind of like what we talked about with the Brewers with Josh Hader. Like, can you turn Josh Hader into something that actually makes you better?
Right.
Now, only maybe a step further where there's not like a significant part of the fan base and apparently a significant part of the clubhouse that doesn't want that to happen. But it's not going to be, oh, we're going to lose Correa. Now we're going to fall to fourth place. But in the rankings of those three teams, the Mets are clearly the closest. The Giants probably the furthest away from competition, in part because of the Padres and Dodgers. But they're still like about a 500 team. The Twins are actually a little bit better. Mm-hmm. They had a lot go wrong last season. Injuries, pitching, it wasn't good. So they're all in all, it's a better thing for the Twins today that they got Carlos Correa. And I'm going to make the pending physical joke as easy as that is to make, because why would they be doing this and then be like, what isn't, like, if something went wrong in a physical that they didn't know about, my gosh, Carlos Correa should not be playing baseball.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's got to be some sort of concerning with that ankle. Like, is it going to fall off in a couple years or something
would
like
have had to happen since mid-October for that to happen. But no, Carlos Correa is going to be playing baseball over at Target Field for a while.
Mm-hmm. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then new segment Wednesday, Vigilante Wednesday. So what that is we're going to take an issue in sports, and since we don't have the legal powers, Luke, to change anything or to fix anything, we're going to vigilante do it.
Wow.
We're going to do that.
Sounds kind of intense.
It is. And we're going to go to the college football world since Georgia, murdered TCU. Just dominated them in the national championship.
We're gonna take out Georgia now.
We're gonna do something to fix this, because I mean, if you look at a lot of the bowl games in the 2000s, there's been some they haven't been very entertaining.
No,
they haven't. So put on your capes and your masks, and we're gonna get ready for a little Vigilante Wednesday. It's coming up after these quick words. All right, it's time for Vigilante Wednesday there, Lucas. Oh, yeah, Batman. Wow. The number one vigilante of all time. Old school Batman. You got to go 89 Danny Elfman theme song. So,
yes. That's a must.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, well, I'm working on some liners for the intros and that sort of stuff. So, Vigilante Wednesday. Yeah. We're gonna kind of take a look at some of maybe the crimes or the issues in sports that we know we can't fix because we're just some dudes over here in great state of Wisconsin. So we're gonna have to vigilante this thing. So the college national championship Monday night, it was embarrassing. Like, congrats to Georgia and all that, but that was like the worst possible thing. I remember we were talking about it on Monday. It's like, I just want it to be a good game. I don't think anybody was maybe really expecting like what we saw in the playoffs because those were fantastic, entertaining games.
It was a reverse.
This was a beatdown.
Yeah, it's usually the other way around.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, everybody's like, just throw the towel in. I mean, come on now, let's get this thing over with.
The funny thing was, for me, the most exciting thing was looking on Twitter to see how much rain was getting into the stadium, which I knew was going to be a possibility. Like, everyone's like, oh my gosh, what's going on? Or like, y'all don't know what the stadium is. Like, it's not a dome. It does have an open air. Second, we have this running gag at home with Marie where I'll say like touchdown, and then I'll say like the mascot, and then she does like a cute animal sound, like when it was Clemson, like touchdown Clemson, and she'd be like, because their paw print like a kitty. So I keep saying some bulldogs, and it like going and going, and after a while she's like, woof. It's just like, all right, enough already. So yeah, it was a boring game.
Yeah, it really was. It was if you're looking at just the 9-year tenure of the college football playoff, the national championship was by far the biggest lopsided score, 65-7. Then you got to go back to, remember the 2015 Rose Bowl and Cotton Bowl? That was the Oregon Florida State, the Marcus Mariota, Jameis Winston game. Oregon dominated, then Alabama blanked Michigan State 38-0.
Yeah,
I mean, that was just awful there. Then you go to like the Peach Bowl, LSU dominating Oklahoma 63-28 in 2019. The 16 Fiesta Bowl, Clemson 31-0 against Ohio State. That was also with the 19 championship, Alabama 44-16 against Clemson.
This was also, I see, the lowest rated national championship game since the BCS era started.
Yeah.
Though the Pat McAfee broadcast increased ESPN2's viewership. But the overall broadcast was the lowest since the beginning of the BCS.
I mean, we could go through like since the 9-year thing, and there's a lot of games with a lot of lopsided scores in these bowl games, right? Well, and then it's going to get expanded here, Lucas. So we might see like a Georgia versus whoever's at 8 in that.
Coastal Carolina.
Yeah, we're going to see more of this. So how do we fix this? How do we stop this from happening again and ruining national championship games?
That is a really good question.
Because let me ask you this. Even if it was Michigan in there, I think it's a little bit closer. But I still see Georgia winning by a couple touchdowns. Maybe even 3 touchdowns in that game.
I mean, if it's 2 or 3 touchdowns, I can handle that if you're a really good team. And Georgia was expected to be a really, really good team going into the season. I did not think 65-7 was going to happen. And I figured it was a mismatch. I didn't think it was going to be that much of a mismatch. And I'd like to say that it's one of those, like, remember the super blowout era of the Super Bowl from the mid-'80s to the mid-'90s?
Yep.
That, like, games would get away from one team and then it was like a snowball. And I wonder if that happened to a degree on Monday night. But Georgia hasn't looked this good in a while. But it does tend to happen, like you just listed, with all of those semifinals and national championships. I mean, the prior record holder for the biggest win wasn't that like Alabama, Ohio State 2 years ago? Wasn't that long, or something like that
for national championship?
Or was it or am I thinking of USC when they won in 04? The point is,
It's kind of different because if you just go with the 9-year, 10-year, we had this as a trivia question yesterday.
Mhm.
So if you go with the college football playoff one, it's tied between the Alabama Clemson and the Alabama Ohio State.
Yeah, that's it. That's
And
what I was
then
thinking of.
if you just kind of go back before that, then you had the Nebraska. Was it Nebraska Miami 95?
No, I think that was 2001.
No, that was in the 90s.
Was it?
Yeah, we did. There was a. Let me bring it up here.
Because I saw there was an 01 one where it was like 34-0 at the half or something. I thought I saw the stats at halftime. The point,
Nebraska, Florida 95, 62-24.
Okay. No, I'm thinking when Miami was beating Nebraska in
yeah.
01. Okay, but now I remember that one too. That was that was just a stupid beatdown. I remember I think it was the Fiesta Bowl. But now it's happening a lot. But 2 of the 3 games this year were really good, which is not the norm. Usually it's 2 of the 3 games are really bad, but now we're going to have, like you said, way more than 3 games. Mm-hmm. And there are going to be a lot of blowouts involved.
I mean, even TCU. So, like, after the game, TCU, their coach, Sonny Dykes and that, they're the 3rd team in the playoff. Yet they were talking about getting on that tier with the Nebraska and the Georgias. And we all know there's that tier, right? Mm-hmm. How do is that where we got to fix it? And how do you fix it? Can you fix it?
I think.
Can you put a limit on scholarships? Does that even matter at that point?
Well, the NIL thing is making stuff weird.
Mm-hmm.
And to a degree, Batman doesn't punt. But I don't know that we necessarily know what the outcome of or the effect of NIL on an expanded playoff is going to be. I got a couple interesting nuggets listening to the Press Box pod. Brian Curtis interviewed Chris Fowler. I actually did it late last week, and for some reason I didn't see the pod on my listing until Monday. And I'm like, well, I don't have time to listen before the championship. I'm glad I decided to go ahead and listen anyway, because it was a setup for the national championship. Because Chris Fowler, for one, it's not a TCU Georgia preview. If mm-hmm. anyone you listen to it today, it's going to be timely enough. It actually has some good insight on his career, but also on the differences in college football, NFL, and NIL, and how this relates to the 12-team playoff. He said 2 things. One, we don't know if this is going to lead to more players going into the portal, chasing NIL money because they have expanded opportunities with 12 teams now. Does that mean that the 12 are going to start to even out a little bit more? That maybe someone would play for Georgia, because maybe
a 3rd stringer for Georgia could go start somewhere else.
Right. They could go play for. I'm just going to keep using Coastal Carolina right now, just because it sounds nothing against Coastal Carolina, but it sounds.
Yeah, don't pick on my Chanticleer. So
yeah, that's right. It's Chanticleers, not Chanticleers.
Yeah. So look at me. I'm getting a little bit more evolved.
Kraken, Chanticleers. They might want to go there as opposed to being that 3rd stringer. Now, the counter to that might be, well, look at folks that go play for Kentucky basketball, knowing they're not even going to play during the season, but the mere fact that they're on Kentucky,
they're going to get drafted anyway. So
right, yeah. And we've seen that. Literally, players will not play for a whole year. They're bench riders, and then they're like a top 10 NBA pick.
Yep.
So maybe that doesn't happen, but maybe it does. Maybe another school gives that opportunity. Like, well, okay, sure, you can ride the bench in Georgia, but we'll give you a little extra if you come to West Virginia, Kansas State, something like that.
Or maybe now it's a Wisconsin.
Right. That's the optimistic way of looking at it. Now, the other side, then there's also the question, as Fowler pointed out, about bowl games. Are players less likely to skip out before bowl games? Because there are going to be a lot more teams where you have that question of, is a player going to leave early so that they can either go to the portal or go to the draft and don't want to deal with injuries, lessen their draft status. So does that mean that teams 12 through 5 get weakened? We're not necessarily expecting this because we've never gone through this before, but you have let's say someone playing for like a number 9 Tennessee in a hypothetical year, but then they decide they're not going to play in the bowl because they want to sit out and increase their chances. Or they're playing for number 11 Wake Forest, but then I'm using that quarterback that left Wake Forest, but maybe he decides, I'm not going to play in the playoff game, I'm going to enter the portal. Do they still do that? Does it not matter if it's 5-12, but if it's 1-4, then it does because those are the best teams? Again, that's an unanswerable question. I'm not really vigilanting this too much. I'm more throwing up all this stuff. But then the other thing to consider with all of this, and this was Fowler's, this wasn't like a 1, 2, 3 of what Fowler said, but he had such good information in this or insight in this. He said, for all of the people that are sick of Georgia and Ohio State and Alabama and Clemson and kind of Oklahoma, because it's usually some combination of those 5. Well, you're going to get them even more now because there are more opportunities for them to get in. You will still see plenty of those schools, and because they're ranked near the top, well, they're going to stick around to the playoffs that much more. So that last thing is the crux of the issue. We're still going to have some version of a Georgia-Alabama. Like Georgia might be becoming what Alabama was for the bulk of this last decade. What Clemson was for a good amount of this last decade. There might
Would
be
you rather have Kirby Smart than Nick Saban as a head coach right now?
Wow. That is a really good question. I would rather have Nick Saban, but this is the first time where I'm hesitating. I'm really high in Kirby Smart now with 2 down. I think I need a little bit more time for it to sink in, like give it a few more months. And then you look back on it like, wow, they won the last 2. And then you're like, oh my gosh.
Not to completely get off tangent, but Nick Saban obviously always gets compared with Bill Belichick, right? There's, they try to do some comparisons there. They're friend. Obviously they work together in Cleveland and such and whatever. But, Nick on the college level, Bill on the pro level, we'll say at least Nick's assistant coaches seem to have a little bit better of a track record when they get a chance to be a head coach.
That is true.
Since Kirby was a assistant for Nick in Alabama.
I wonder what the Kirby Smart coaching tree is going to look like.
Yeah.
Kind of a big branch coming off of the Saban tree. And one of the more successful ones. I mean, what Dabo was, right?
I believe so.
I know he's got like Alabama. He's from Alabama.
Yeah.
So how is it fixed? I think some version of a cap might be necessary. Like I think the best structure would be to, and like the NCAA is not going to do this. So maybe this has to be part of what, we've heard about some, like the Power 5 breaking off, forming their own organizations or whatever that is. Maybe they put in a limit on they have a central evaluator for star recruits, and they say you are limited at X number of these star recruits, and then you cannot recruit anymore in a given year. Kind of like the version of a salary cap. That's I think that's the only thing you can do. I do think schedule toughening would help. I just saw literally right now as I was, well, not this second, but in the last half hours, I'm scrolling through Twitter. There was something about, hey, I think it might have been Andrew Perloff was like, hey, check out that schedule for Georgia this upcoming season. Could they finally toughen it up? Maybe, because I think they're doing the same thing as Alabama and having a whole bunch of cream puffs.
Well, and that's the thing too, is at least in the NFL, what do they do with the schedule? It's based off where you finish for a lot of those games. You have your division ones, then you have an opposing conference that every 4 years cycle, but then you finish up the remaining part of your schedule with where you placed in your division. That's who you play in the other division. So Minnesota. I'm not sure off the top of my head which conference or which division the NFC North plays next year. I just can't blank it. But they would play like the Eagles if they didn't play the NFC East, because the Eagles were one in their division too. It's a little bit tougher. It's what it's supposed to be, right? But can they do that in college football?
That would take a new organization. Okay, so again, if we're taking extremes here, I think that's what you would have to do. You'd have to, if part of the objective of what's happening to college football over the last 20 odd years has been to professionalize college football with an acceleration of late between NIL money and an expanded playoff. A lot has happened in just the last 2 years, especially. Well, part of the appeal of the NFL is what you just laid out, that the successful teams then have to play more successful teams. The teams that didn't do well, they get an easier schedule. It's parity to make everyone every fan feel like their team has a chance to win and keep them invested in following the league. That is a massive reason among a few, but that is a massive reason why the NFL is as successful as it is. You always have some degree of hope. Even Lions and Browns fans and their long-suffering fan bases have some degree of hope that everything can be evened out, provided your organization is competent enough. Their knock is not on the NFL. Their knock is on their own organizations. So if you had that in college football, some sort of a parity, that's where I think you have to have like the Power Five reconstitute themselves. And that's where, along with maybe a limit star recruits, you set up the schedule so you are playing the best from the SEC, the best non-conference from some combination of the Big 10, Big 12, whatever we're calling these in the future. That's probably the best way to knock them down a little bit. I think that's the only way to do that. But then you also got and this is a big reason why, because the freaking Gophers are already set to play Alabama in 2033.
Yeah, that's
and ridiculous. Good luck getting either school to be like,
and I get it, like the smaller schools, they talk about, well, they get paid a boatload of cash. So, I mean, they still want to do that, even though if they'll get embarrassed on a national stage or whatever,
well,
they get paid.
If this happens where we do kind of super league this and have like the 60 top schools, 70 top, whatever that is,
relegation,
that would be fun, actually. And remember, relegation's closest analogy is college athletics, because you can drop and go up divisions. But we're so not used to that here. We'd find some way to make sure that if you're in, you're in.
Yeah. Well, and somebody had commented on our video stream, should college have a draft for these players? That'll never happen.
Oh boy.
That would never happen.
Oh, wow. I mean, that's an interesting thought.
But there's so many schools that you know what I mean? Like, okay, Troy could have the number one pick. But then you'd have a kid, an 18, 17-year-old kid, like, what is it? Oh, I'm not going then. You know what I mean? Like, you could afford them and all that. But that ain't going to happen. That'll never, ever happen.
Well, yeah.
I mean, there's
it would blow up recruiting as we know it.
Yes, that's just, I don't think that's a very likely scenario to happen.
Plus, keep in mind,
and just because players are getting paid with the NIL doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to get the same NIL if they go to a different school. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
It's a business decision for these kids. They'll have a better, like you were saying earlier, they're going to have a better shot at, the top players are going to get more money at a different program as opposed to going to, another one. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I also think too, look at what Deion did with Jackson State. If you get that right coach to kind of build in that culture and that thing, you can change a program around. We'll see if you can do it with Colorado.
Really fast. And Colorado's now relevant. We're talking about Colorado football. Funny you say that. That was another thing that Fowler brought up, being a UC grad. And he was talking about how Colorado football was basically non-entity. It was blank for the past few years. And that's changing now, and he's excited to see what happens. I'm curious to see how long Coach Prime stays at Colorado. But it's a relevant school now. Even if there are a bunch of his guys coming in, we're still talking about Colorado football. But in a more structured world, how does all of that work? Can you still have players follow coaches and all of that? So if we're trying to really prevent Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, insert one other school that's always around and that evolves every 5 years, I think you're going to have to make this a far more structured organization of schools. Scheduling, I think you're right on that. That's one thing. I think capping the number of recruits and having a central organization to say, these are 5 stars, these are 4 stars, these are 3 stars. You can have X number.
And when you say central organization, you're talking like, because we got the Rivals, we've got the ESPNs, we got the 24/7 sports ones. And
it would be, let's call this the college
football rankings.
Yes. I'm actually going to take like I'm going to take an old term from the 80s, the College Football Association, the CFA. Those who are old enough remember seeing like CFA football graphics on TV. I'm sure some of us younger folks are like, what the heck is the CFA? And they see like a screenshot of a Michigan-Iowa game from 85. But that was this kind of organization that was put together that allowed games to be broadcast on TV and broke the monopoly of the NCAA, saying like one a weekend.
Yeah.
That's an absurd thing. That was the case for a long time. So let's say the College Football Association, the CFA, that is the new thing that governs top flight college football. They would then have a ranking, a central ranking, a committee, yes, of people that know their stuff. And they say, all these folks are 5 stars. All these are 4 stars. All right, everyone, go recruit. But once you've committed to X number, then you've got them. Now, if a 5-star backs out, hey, you got an opening. Okay,
right.
You can go ahead and get another one, but you can't corner like 52 5 stars. Now, no one's doing that, but you can't do that anymore.
Right.
And then the scheduling thing. Find a way so you're not having cream puff games anymore, that the big schools are that you'd have to break a lot of scheduling, and maybe you have to pay out some money to affect that. But there's enough money flowing around. They could do that if we're doing that much of a redo of the system. And then I think you have a more fair top 12 or whatever playoff system we have.
All right. Hey, we got to take a break, and then we're going to do some stock reports. So we'll do that very quickly and finish up. Oh, your years, by the way, for Showdown, 98 and 69.
Wow.
So a little bit of a gap right there. But
nice.
Yeah. So we'll get to that coming up in the 8 o'clock hour. But first, stock reports after these words. Got about 5 minutes to the top, so we'll do some quick stock reports here this morning as we finish up this second hour here. Whose stock is up? Whose stock is down? Luke, whose stock is up for you?
I'm saying the Twins, and for not just the hey, they got Carlos Correa, they're a better team as a result instead of not having him. It's because of what I think the Scott Boras implications could be. We know how Scott Boras seems to be loyal to certain teams. Like he's like, hey, I can work with you. I will move my clients in a direction of a certain team. And we've seen this with other agents, the whole clutch thing in the NBA. That happens a lot. And I wonder, the thought crossed my mind yesterday of, the Twins were willing to keep negotiating to get Carlos Correa. As much as Boras was apparently trying to hold out to try to get something from the Mets, fact that the Twins still wanted to work with Correa and get this deal done, and having never really had Scott Boras luck before, I'm not sure how much they've tried, but now they've gone all in with a Scott Boras client. I wonder if this means other Boras clients, as the next few years go by, are going to kind of be directed more Minnesota's way. Not that the Twins will ultimately sign all of them, but Boras will say, yeah, go talk to the Twins. That's how free agency works. And the Twins have never had that opportunity before, and I think that's an underrated part of this. It may amount to nothing, but I would keep that out. Keep an eye out for future Scott Boras clients and the Minnesota Twins. They should have the money. And sorry, they're not poor anymore. They built Target Field to be a World Series champion. You can't then cry poverty. Not that they have, but they can't. I think this could make a difference.
I am really going to be stretching for my stock riser, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I'm kind of tipping my Super Bowl pick with this here too. Going to the Super Bowl. My stock riser is Dallas Cowboys.
Oh.
Yeah.
Why?
I'm kind of buying into this. So they had that ugly loss against Washington, but I don't know if you saw how they've rebounded after losses this year. They've gone on like either 2 or 4 game winning streaks, and now they're due. There's like a pattern, and if it stays with that pattern, the Cowboys are due for a 4 game winning streak, which would get them to the Super Bowl.
Oh.
And I just look at this NFC, and I honestly don't know who I'm going to pick right now, but I'm actually feeling fairly like if I had to pick right now today, I'm probably picking the Cowboys to go to the Super Bowl through the NFC.
Wow.
And I can't believe I'm saying that.
Well,
I think they will beat Tampa.
Okay.
Which means if everything goes chalk, they'll play the Eagles, which I think the Cowboys can beat the Eagles. And then it's either the 49ers or the Vikings. They've already dominated the Vikings. 49ers is still such a wild card for me. So I might be going to Cowboys.
Well, that segues nicely to my stock follower, and that's the Philadelphia Eagles.
Oh, look at that. So.
I mean, they have looked that great towards the end of the season. I know you could. There are wildly different views of Jalen Hurts in his final game. Granted, he's back from injury, but he also didn't look that great. He was Offensive Player of the Week from Peter King. But he was also being knocked for. It didn't really look like the Jalen Hurts from earlier this year. I know, coming off the injury, but still. So the rest of the team also is sunk a little more. They had that one injury in the offensive line and blanking on the player. I still think they get to the NFC Championship game, but my pick for the conference are the 49ers. I'm picking an Eagles-49ers NFC Championship game, and I think the Niners would win that one. I don't see the Eagles going to the Super Bowl. I think they're a stock faller.
I think if the Eagles play the Cowboys in the first round, Eagles are one and done. That's my pick.
I wouldn't be shocked if that happened.
My stock faller, the Badger basketball team right now. 2 losses in a row, another loss last in the state. They definitely miss. They definitely miss Tyler Wall right now, but they are just getting dominated on the boards. I mean, last night Michigan State almost doubled up on their rebounds, and that's been a trend so far this year. Wisconsin cannot rebound, so right now I'm going stock down Badger hoops.
Yeah, they're in a rough spot. Hey, Jamal Williams, offensive player.
I did see that. Yeah. Yep.
No Vikings this week. Kind of a shocker. I know it happens like every other week. Like I'm expecting it now.
Yeah. So, all right. That's it for hour two. Coming up, we're going to do a little another edition of Showdown. Kind of got a huge gap in this, almost 30 years, 98 versus 69. Which year will move on as the best year in our bracket challenge as decided by sports, movies, and music? Well, stick around and find out. We'll be back after this news update. Third hour kicking off this morning on this Making the Turn Wednesday. And, well, you kiddos who had like 2-hour delays, you might have been just closed now. Eau Claire, they're closed. Chippewa's closed now. Altoona's closed now. So all you lucky kids, there's been a lot of closings this year already, Lucas.
Yeah.
Lucky kids. Well, you got to stay a little bit later now, but, you know, the whole virtual learning thing too. So
yeah, that does alter it.
Yeah, Menominee, you're now closed. So a lot of schools that first started off the morning as delayed, you're kind of switching over to closed now. So
it's slick. You get out. I mean, even some of the main roads. And then, granted, I was driving a little over an hour ago, so it's probably evolved some. But
yeah, it
wasn't that great.
Yeah, at 3:30 or a little before 4 this morning when I was coming in, I wasn't really expecting that. So I almost pulled a Marv from Home Alone and fell on the deck. But then on the road, I couldn't go over 25. It was that slick on Claremont. Otherwise, I'd start like fishtailing a little bit there. I just had to gradually kind of speed up. So
when I drove Claremont about 3-ish hours later, it was better. But most of us are going slow because there's that one dude that's like pedal to the metal, like you do you, I guess. Somehow they didn't fishtail, but like the side roads, my driveway was ice. The further away you got from the main road. So I understand why we're having the off day today. So
yeah, and I think the big thing is probably those side roads and you know and you know country one too out there. You know,
definitely.
You know, taking care of the main roads out there. So but little guy's sitting across from me right now, so I got to tell him he's got no school today. So
what's he watching?
Hey, what are you watching over there? What? What? Oh, not telling me. So, okay.
We can hear it. Tell him that like there are thousands of people that are listening into what he's.
Hey, dude, you're gonna have to turn that down here in a second, okay? People can hear you as he's eating his gummies and giving me a frown look. So there you go.
Wow. So,
wow. All right. So
learn from the best.
Yeah. All right. You ready to do a little showdown?
Let's.
Okay. All right, let's get it going here as I'm trying to reach across and turning down the tablet volume a little bit here. Uh-oh.
It's going the wrong way.
This is a play-by-play now. What is this? Is this? Oh, sorry, I shut it off. You get to look forward to this, Luke. I know I ran into a Target the other day, you know, trying to figure out shoes or now he wanted to look at toys and all that. So get ready for this.
Oh, yeah, I know. It's inevitable.
It's coming.
Yeah, we're going to have a round of this coming up in about 4 years. Then you'll be hearing something in the background of the show when I'm on, when I've got my daughter in on the show. So, yeah, it's...
Don't drop that. And he almost did. So there you go. All right, let's get to it. So showdown 98 to 69 are our 2 years. It's we're competing against each other in our bracket challenge. Almost 30 years apart right there, but that's what we get because we're running out of years and we're going to be moving on to the second round here. I would think fairly soon.
60s, 2000s when they're going to be wild.
Yeah, that's going to be a little off right there, right? So
sports
69 in sports. That's where we're going to start it off here. Then we'll go, we'll do sports and then move on from there. But this was the Super Bowl III, the guarantee, right? Joe Namath.
Iconic game.
That's the only thing Jets fans still have to kind of brag about right now.
Well, the butt fumble too, but you know.
I said brag about.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. No offense, Jets fans, but yeah.
The game of the century was that year, Texas, Arkansas in December, which is it's weird to think like 1 versus 2, but that was a very big, like I think Richard Nixon was at the game.
Nixon was at a lot of games though, wasn't he?
He did.
I feel like there's a lot of snow. Like, hey, Richard Nixon throughout the first pitch. Richard was it? No, it was Ford. I think that was at the Lambeau Field. Or was that Nixon?
No, Nixon was he was the vice president, and he came
to
the then city stadium opener.
Yep.
Yeah. So, Nixon was at a lot of places.
Yep.
And he's still on Twitter, as you may know. Seriously. Not seriously, but seriously.
Yeah.
So that's a good year for the Vikings.
7 touchdowns in a game.
Yeah, they were that was one of their best all-time teams.
American League expanded to 12 teams, adding the Royals and the Seattle Pilots. National League added the Expos and Padres.
That was the beginning of the divisions as we know it.
Yep. Mickey Mantle retired that year. Announced his retirement.
And a pretty good World Series. Even for a 5-game series, it was a significant World Series. The Miracle Mets.
Mets beating the Baltimore Orioles.
Heck of a year for Ets New York teams beating heavily favored Baltimore teams. It's true.
We got for some hoops action. It was the Celtics over the Lakers in 7 games.
The end of the Russell era.
UCLA beat Purdue and the men's basketball championship. No big surprise.
Yeah, no.
UCLA. Yeah. What else do we got on here in 1969? Not
Canadians beat the Blues
in the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, tennis. You had a grand slam from Rod Laver.
Okay.
From Australia, Margaret Court took 3 of the 4 for the women.
How about this? ABC's Wide World of Sports Athlete of the Year in 1969. Any guess if you didn't look at it? Look it up. Athlete of the Year. I never would have guessed this. Mario Andretti.
Really?
1969. Now, the Associated Press's Male Athlete of the Year was Tom Seaver. And then Debbie Meyer for swimming for female. But ABC's Wide World of Sports Athlete of the Year was Mario Andretti.
Real.
I never would have guessed that.
Huh. How did he do in... Well, gosh, interesting that motorsport, as they have it, has its own category. Mario Andretti, what did he do? What did he win in 1969? He won USAC National Championship. But he was just really good back then. Anyone old enough to remember? But Bob's, you listening somewhere? You can come up and tell us.
I know Mario Andretti from when I was watching Tool Time as a kid on Home Improvement.
Yeah, like I remember Andretti. Like I knew who he was when I started following sports. Like he was that big of a deal.
Yeah, yep, definitely. But
okay,
that's interesting though too because, yeah, I don't know, but that's what it says here. Wide World of Sports. Mario.
Now again,
Andretti.
that's also Wide World of Sports, so maybe they were following. Okay, before I get too far out here, was there some? Okay, he won the Indy 500 in '69. Okay, there. The page I was looking at didn't have all listed, but yeah,
that's a big one there. Then
he won the Indy 500 back when the Indianapolis 500 was. I mean, it's still a big deal, but it was a big deal. And like his team was pretty good in NASCAR. So yeah, he was the IndyCar champion in '69. So yeah, he was good.
Anything else in '69 for sports?
That's about it.
Yeah. All right. So 98.
Oh,
98. We don't need to talk about that Super Bowl.
We also don't need to talk about what happened after the Vikings had a really good season that year.
Yeah. That was not very good for our 2 years there.
No, it wasn't.
Oh,
I mean, the year was fun. It's just, yeah.
So I had to have been in 6th grade when that's 6th grade. Yeah. Yep. Because I was in 5th grade when they won Super Bowl 31.
So, yeah.
So I remember watching that pass from Favre go over the middle and it get batted down. And I was 11 years old because I was going to be 12 that summer. And I just remember taking my right hand and smacking it so hard against the arm of the couch, but it was the wooden part. I thought I broke my wrist.
Ouch.
That was 11-year-old Dan reacting to that Super Bowl loss.
That wasn't good, but that happens.
Yeah.
I mean, a bunch of my college friends were all watching in a dorm room. And
how about that? You were in college and I was in 6th grade?
6th grade, yeah.
Jesus.
My gosh, that was different.
Holy moly! I didn't know it was that big of a gap.
At that point. And I was rooting for the AFC. I wasn't even anti-Packer. I wanted an AFC team to finally win it. And I remember when that play happened, I jumped. I was like, yeah! Like I was really excited. And the guy my friend of mine whose room it was, he's a Packer fan. He's like, get out.
Yeah.
He did not want me celebrating that. I'm like, well, I get it. Of course, we're all college kids at that point. So our reactions were a little more stark at the time. I guess you mature with age, at least.
They do. Yeah, we do. I don't remember what I was like the day after though. Like I don't remember. 6th grade was, I did not like 6th grade. I loved middle school, 5th, 7th, and 8th. 6th grade was not a good year for me, but so I don't remember how I was the next day, but yeah. Oh yeah. I remember that game very,
but it was a good game, and it was
the whole debate: should Mike Holmgren let him score? That whole thing. Touchdown and that. So
the helicopter thing with Elway and all that. So I mean, it had a memorable moment.
Yeah,
and like I said, we hadn't had when we were talking about super blowouts earlier in this show. That was one of the first. I mean, there were a couple others that were closer. It's not like every game was 38-9 for a decade, but it was kind of a relief to have a really good back and forth. I don't know who's going to win kind of game.
Yeah.
So that was fun.
We got Michigan defeated Washington State Cougars to win the AP Poll National Championship.
That's right.
Was that was the Charles Woodson Michigan Wolverines, right?
From the 97 season.
Yeah.
So yeah. And that's where the Orange Bowl was still in the bowl. Was the original
venue for the championship game, but the Big Ten Conference was not part of the bowl alliance.
That was the Bowl Alliance thing. So then
it was Nebraska and Tennessee.
So then Nebraska leapfrogged Michigan, even though they weren't number one.
Yep.
And then Tom Osborne got to go out as a champion. And I remember Scott Frost just being annoyed by him. So that was happening already in the 90s. And that was the last pre-BCS national championship.
Yep. Mm-hmm. How about this? The Brewers moved from the American League to the National League.
We're taking this national.
Yeah.
Remember that slogan?
Yep. Diamondbacks and the Tampa Bay Devil Rays expansion teams. I remember more of that about the Devil Rays and the Diamondbacks because of all the veterans the Devil Rays had. Wade Boggs, remember? Or was it Canseco? Fred McGriff.
Hall of Fame Devil Ray.
Yeah.
Wade Boggs.
Yep. Cal Ripken Jr. ended his consecutive game streak.
And then there was a little thing going on between Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa.
That too.
How do we reflect on that now?
Yeah.
Because if we're talking significance of the year, that dominated sports in 1990. It was a pop culture thing in 1998.
Mm-hmm.
And then everything that happened since then and how we look at it. But in real time, it was huge, and it was arguably the thing. I think it's an oversimplification, but it's kind of the thing that brought baseball back.
Yep.
Well, a lot of people who know said it did, so I'm going to take their word for it. So that's a pretty good mark for 1998.
The World Series was born. I remember watching this because I was a Padres fan. But the Yankees swept the Padres.
I just remember being excited that the Padres wore a different uniform in every game.
Yeah,
that was the most exciting thing.
I wanted Tony Gwynn to win a World Series. I remember as a kid. But that didn't.
But that was the '98 Yankees are an all-timer.
Yeah. That's
like they're borderline. I mean, you could make a case that's a Mount Rushmore baseball team, maybe.
Yep. We got that was the lockout year for the regular season, but the finals was. You want to talk about an iconic one?
Mm-hmm.
Jordan, Jazz, final shot.
Mm-hmm.
Kentucky defeated Utah. That was the Rick Majerus Utah team too. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That was I believe, Michael Doliak was on that Utah team. You want to think a name? Throw out a random name there.
Wow.
The only reason I know that is because he was drafted by the Orlando Magic. So that's.
Of course, you would know that.
See, I know stupid crap that nobody really cares about.
That's right. Jeff Shepard was the star of Kentucky.
That would have been Tubby Smith's, right?
Team? Yes.
Because Rick Pitino was with Boston yet, right? I believe.
Right. Yes. Because Larry Bird's not walking through that door.
That's right. What else do we got on here? Golf. that was the Mark O'Mara year. He won the Masters and the British Open. David Duval was the money leader. 2 points.
Tiger Woods. I was looking at BJ Singh, so it came out as TJ Singh. Tiger Woods didn't have a big win that year. What was wrong with Tiger Woods? Will he ever meet his expectations?
Would that have been with David Duval? I'm going to Google this quick. But is there anything else with 98 sports?
Down to tennis world, Pete Sampras won Wimbledon. Shocker. You had a lot of different women winning that year. Martina Hingis, Arantxa Sanchez Vicario, the late Yana Novotná, Lindsay Davenport.
The golf thing I was thinking of was when they first started doing those nighttime golfs. But that was 99, the first one, Duval and Tiger. So,
got it. Yep. And the Winter Olympics were that year in Nagano. That was where why am I suddenly blanking on her name? Figure skater who does all the commentary nowadays. Duh. Like I'm picturing her.
I'm blanking now too.
Oh gosh, this is so stupid. Why am I forgetting who She is. I hate
Carol Lipinski?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Carol Lipinski was the big star that year. Michelle Kwan was also pretty good that year.
Oh yeah, Michelle.
That was
Kwan,
the year
yeah.
the men's Olympic hockey team had all the NHLers and they didn't do that well, and like they trashed the hotel room, and that was all like really bad vibes. Yeah. I didn't pay too much attention to that Olympics. That was like since I became a sports fan, that one just kind of came and went, and maybe that's because I didn't have like cable in my dorm room, so it wasn't the easiest to watch the games. And of course, you couldn't stream back then.
Right.
So like and it was Japan, so everything was.
Internet was in its early ages, wasn't it?
Yeah. So all of those factors, and it just kind of came and went. It was like
big year too, because if that's 98 and I was in 6th grade, so we got our first computer. It was a compact from Best Buy.
Nice.
I remember that day.
Nice.
Pretty big. I remember my first email I ever created too. sporty13d@yahoo.com.
Do you still have access to that?
No, I don't think so. I don't know.
I was just thinking the other day, like my best friend from college wanted to send me an audio file from something that he used to play in college, like something that you used to annoy a guy in a dorm room next door. And he just found the file the other day. So he's like, "What's your email address?" I'm like, Hofflalu, which is the same handle that I used back in college, @yahoo.com, which I've had that email address since like 2000, 2001. And it hit me like, I've had the same main email address for like 2 decades.
I want to know everybody's like first email, like, because it was all stupid stuff. I remember, mine was, I think it had to be, because I always got asked why the D at the end.
Mm-hmm.
The easy answer would have been like Dan, right? You know what my reasoning was? I like to play defense. That's what I told people.
Oh boy.
I was an idiot as an 11 and 12-year-old. I like to play defense. That was it. So.
I think if you ask anyone outside of people that were in college, because college, okay, granted, like when I first went on, I had like an AOL thing, but that was just for like the summer. And you're like, what? Okay, cool. I have this. Like the first real email address I had was the college provided one.
Really? Okay.
So yeah, like, and that was actually where I got the Hofflalu. Like the Luther College assigned everyone your email address based on the first 6 letters of your last name and the first 2 letters of your first name. And it was like hofflalu@luther.edu. So yeah, if you weren't a college, if you were younger than college, that's where it gets really interesting. Because that was back when you could have like, what was it?
Sporty13D
@yahoo.com.
13 was my number because I had, and I'm getting off on a tangent, and I know we got to get going here, but 13 was the number I came up with as my number because it had a number in there somewhere that represented my favorite athletes at that time. 1 for Penny, 3 for Shaq. There was a couple other ones in there too. I think it was maybe 3 + 1 was 4, so it meant Favre. That sort of thing. Yeah,
you're getting into numerology.
That was the reason. At first it was 12, believe it or not, but then something didn't work out. I can't remember why I switched it to 13. But first it was 12 because you switch it around. 21, Dion. Yeah. Oh yeah, I had a problem. But I can't remember why I went to 13. There's another reason why. Might have been like the Favre thing.
You got to create like a Twitter burner account or something. Sporty13D.
That would be pretty funny, actually. Somebody else should probably do that and make fun of me on there. So that would be Oh yeah. Yahoo chat rooms as a kid. Oh yeah,
it's available by the way. I just checked. There are no.
They don't have it.
There's no one. No one has a Sporty13D Twitter handle.
Dang,
it's yours for the taking.
Dang, that was I remember because I'd we got a scanner, so I'm scanning this picture, like my basketball picture, but I didn't know how to crop, so it was like, the picture in the corner, but then all this blank space sort of thing. So yeah, those were the good days.
Boy,
GeoCity days too. So
yeah.
All right, my winner for sports is 98.
Yeah, it's 98.
Okay. So you want to do music quick?
Let's do music. 1969, I mean, it was the year of Woodstock. It's the year of Altamont, but it was the year of Woodstock. It was the year of Abbey Road. Some pretty significant stuff going on there. The bigger songs of the year, Honky Tonk Women, Sugar Sugar from the Archies, Everyday People from Sly and the Family Stone, Crimson and Clover from Tommy James and the Shondells. Three Dog Night broke big that year. Elvis, Suspicious Minds. CCR broke big that year. Proud Mary and a lot of their hits were in 69. Sweet Caroline was in 1969. That's any indication.
Yeah.
Album-wise, Led Zeppelin's first album came out that year. Neil Young's self-titled first album came out that year. Joni Mitchell's second album, Nashville Skyline, from Bob Dylan. Tommy from The Who, like I said, Abbey Road came out that year. The Band, their debut album came out that year. Also Led Zeppelin 2, by the way. Bowie's first album, the Allman Brothers, Let It Bleed from the Stones. I mean, wow, lots going on. 1998. Now you're going to know the songs a little better because you grew up with them. Like, The Boy Is Mine, and You're Still the One, and Too Close. Shout out Minneapolis. Next.
When you said You're Still the One, is that Shania?
Yeah.
Okay.
Still
yeah. Because I had that CD.
Oh, yeah. Master P.
Shania Twain.
Make him say,
It was the Shania Twain Faith Hill battle back in the day. That was a Shania.
That was starting to build. That really got going in 99, but yep. Getting Jiggy With It.
Oh, I had that album. And all these albums I've said I had so far were, a part of the 12 for a Penny.
Nice. See, now you could have gotten Usher because You Make Me Wanna and My Way were both big hits in 1998. That was we had Backstreet Boys. That was the year NSYNC really broke it big. 1998. Tearing Up My Heart, stuff like that. Yeah. Backstreet Boys had Backstreet's Back that year. I'll Never Break Your Heart were hits. Now, a lot of these songs, again, came out in 97, but they were big hits in 98. I Don't Want to Miss a Thing. Aerosmith.
Man, yeah.
Destiny's Child's first hit. First time we really knew who Beyonce was. No, No, No. My Heart Will Go On from that year. Album-wise, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill came out that year. That was a pretty solid one. After that, I mean, the albums I'm looking through, they're not that great. I'm going to give it to 69.
Okay.
Far more iconic events. Again, Woodstock happened in 1969.
Yeah.
That's a big one there. So movies are going to probably determine this week.
69, it was nice. 98 is going to dominate the movies.
Yeah,
I'm just, really quick with the 69. You got Midnight Cowboy, you got Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Big ones right there. The first, or I should say the original True Grit with John Wayne, The Italian Job, Easy Rider,
yeah.
The Wild Bunch, and, some classics that we know. But once we get it, I'm just going to go into 98 right now because it's so big. Big Lebowski. Come on. I mean, The Dude Abides. American History X, Saving Private Ryan, Truman Show, Armageddon, Something About Mary. We got that was the year of the End of the World movies, Deep Impact too.
All the asteroid movies. This was right before 1999 of the whole Nostradamus. We're all going to get killed by an asteroid. That summer I was like freaking out about that. Like, we're going to get killed by an asteroid.
Would you rather have Bruce Willis or Robert Duvall helping save the world when it comes to an asteroid? Because Robert Duvall was the guy in Deep Impact.
I'd take Bruce Willis.
Yeah, I'm taking Bruce Willis.
Die Hard skills. Yeah, I think that translates pretty well.
This was also you had Waterboy, but then remember A Bug's Life came out. So then you had A Bug's Life. And what was the other one? Ants, I think. That whole thing. Man in the Iron Mask. That was the Leo DiCaprio years.
Yes.
There too. So it's not even close. It's 98.
It's 98.
Yep.
98 is going to advance.
Godzilla with Matthew Broderick.
The Wedding Singer.
Enemy of the State.
Shakespeare in Love. The
Patch
Oscar
Adams, which
winner?
is a very underrated movie. Patch Adams.
Yeah, that's true.
I'd throw that one out there too. Lethal Weapon 4, but we don't count that one. Though.
Night at the Roxbury.
Oh, yeah. Come on now. So, easily it's 98.
Yes.
So, 98 moves on.
Okay.
There you go. That was easy. That was a
Simple.
fun one. A lot of good movies in 98, though.
There
if you think
were.
about it. U.S. Marshals, solid one.
That was a good year.
Mm-hmm.
And that was even with Titanic dominating at the beginning of the year at the box office.
They're more the 97, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it came out in 97, but it was like early 98. By that point, it was everywhere.
Yeah. So, all right. That's it for Showdown as 98 moves on against 1969. So we'll hit this up again next week, Wednesday. We got to take a quick break, though. And then let's talk some, we don't have a whole lot of time here, so we're going to mix up some stuff, a little bit of a a buffet of topics, if you will.
Potpourri.
Potpourri. There you go. I like that. So we'll take a quick break and be back after these quick words. Only a few days left for your nominations for what flavor we should be making our brats and snack sticks in. We're partnering up with Mike Star Market for that. So head to sportstalk1051.com and you'll be able to nominate or give us your suggestions on what flavor we should make. And if we select yours, you're going to win a gift card from Mike's Star Markets there too. So just a few more days before we close that up and try to decide which flavor we're going to run with.
We have some Carlos Correa breaking news.
Oh God, what happened now?
You want to play the thing?
Yeah, I gotta find it. I gotta go through it. We got like a bunch of hotkeys now on this thing. Okay, there we go. It's gonna take a little bit because you haven't pushed it in like a week, so it's got to like load,
warm up.
Yeah.
Okay, now John Hyman is reporting this. So,
I just saw it now too. So yeah,
Carlos
take it with
Correa,
a grain of salt.
Yes,
it's John Hyman.
But Carlos Correa has passed his physical.
The Twins physical.
The Twins physical. Emphasis on that. He didn't emphasize that, but we're emphasizing the Twins physical, which was probably like, your leg's still okay. You're cool.
It's like when the Packers passed Brett Favre in his physical the second time before the trade was complete.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
One of those. So, yes. But the physical is passed, so no more pending jokes. Carlos Correa is going to be a Twin now.
Mm-hmm. All right.
That's done.
So, there you go.
No.
You think he will spend more time at DH, more so than his career because of that ankle?
That's a really good point. David Schoenfeld had a good write-up on ESPN Plus about that, doing the whole grading thing. He thinks he's moving to third eventually. He doesn't have the speed to hold up at short, especially now that position is going to require more athleticism now in the post-shift era. And they do have some shortstop prospects. Royce Lewis, who filled in for Correa last year before Lewis had another torn ACL. So there's some potential there. There's one other guy I'm blanking on the name at this very second. I actually think they're probably going to, long-term, they'll be in the market for a different type of shortstop, or maybe there'll be another prospect. But I think he goes to third ultimately. I don't think DH, I think they're going to want a basher there.
Mm-hmm.
Correa, though, I think could probably play out a good amount of the rest of his career on the left side of the infield and be okay.
Yeah, and that's where he was going to play if he would have stayed with the Mets.
See, now that actually makes more sense now that I read all of that about where he's probably best to. Yeah, like I think so. Okay, now that explains the Twins. Like 6 minutes ago, their Twitter account, they put up the Idris Elba meme. I want you to put the word back out.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to put the word out there that we back up meme, which I'd never seen until I'm like, what? What they're memeing now? What the heck? Like the Twins aren't really known for having a savvy social media account. And then I looked that up and go, okay, cool. Well, that explains it.
Yep.
So that's how the Twins announced it, by doing the Idris Elba meme and then putting a Twins cap on him.
All right. Well,
okay.
Yeah. More power to them.
Props to their socials.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So, since this will be the last time you're on before the postseason starts off here, Luke, how do you see Super Wild Card Weekend? Super Wild Card Weekend playing out?
I still wish they do like they did 2 years ago and have 3 games per day.
Mm-hmm.
That was the best.
Yeah, I don't like the Monday night thing.
No,
and I'm not a fan of it. I get it; it's money and whatever, but I'm not a big fan of it. I am actually surprised they put Cowboys. Well, maybe not because it's Aikman, but whatever. So
yeah, Buck and Aikman. And where did I hear this? Was this from? I think it was Cousin Sal on the Simmons pod. I think he said that he had heard, and if you know Cousin Sal from Jimmy Kimmel, he is so sarcastic, so making fun of stuff that you don't know what actually is serious. But the way he put it made it sound like he actually had a source, and there's ABC, ESPN, that this was kind of a league thing to kind of do a thing for ESPN, that their Monday Night Football schedule didn't turn out that great this past year, so here, we're going to give you at least on...
You're going to get Brady and the Cowboys.
That's the thing. It's Brady and the Cowboys. It may not actually be the best game, but in terms of what's the big headline everyone's going to want to watch just because of the names, Brady versus the Cowboys, that is NFL pure gold.
Yep.
The game could suck, though.
Uh-huh.
I'm picking, I know you're high on the Cowboys. I'm picking the Buccaneers in that game.
Ooh.
I like how the Buccaneers have been playing of late, and I'm not really counting this last game, which does make you wonder. I'm a little sidetrack here, but I thought about this. So they end up finishing sub 500. What if there were a rule in place that you had to finish above 500 to keep your home game as a division champion? The Buccaneers would have had to have played all their players. They probably could have beaten Atlanta, but think about that implication. If you're an 8-8 team going into the last week of the season and you've clinched your division, I haven't heard any proposals of the sort, but think about that. Would that be a good thing or a bad thing?
I think that would be. That would add more intrigue to Week 18 for some teams.
It would. I mean, hey, you got 2 seeds and 3 seeds that are playing all out to keep their 2 or 3 seed positions. So here you're keeping a home game, not just a seed.
Interesting.
I think some teams would complain about that because they want to rest.
Yeah.
But intrigue-wise, like
I'm intrigued with that.
I want more entertainment.
Yeah. I'm definitely intrigued with that. I'd be open to that.
Yeah.
I'm open to the conversation.
Oh, okay.
I'm open to
get on the competition committee. But yeah, I got the Buccaneers winning that game.
Okay.
Back to chronological order. 49ers I have winning. That's the one game where I think that should be a complete lock for the Niners. But if there's going to be a game where we're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening in real time. Why are the Seahawks leading by like a touchdown in the second quarter? It would be that game. I don't know why. It's stuff getting weird. I know it's going to rain there, but I don't think that necessarily hurts the Niners, actually. I think they're built for that. But the safe pick is the 49ers. I've gone back and forth on Jaguars, Chargers. I'm going to lead in Chargers in this one, but I don't have a real good read on it. They're a little more injured than I'd like, but then the Jags didn't look good in their last game. I don't know. Bills are advancing. I mean, talk about a mismatch. That's going to, I think the Bills-Dolphins game could be, like we've seen the last 2 years, the 7-2 matchup where you're like, why are we playing this game? Do we need, and it begets the conversation of should we have 7 seeds in the playoffs? And I get it why in the Dolphins case, because it's Kyler Thompson, but that's kind of the point. They lost their quarterback. Tua's not playing. If Tua plays, I think a lot of people are going to be angry about that.
You think so? Because of the concussion?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing? And I really like Mike McDaniel. He's like my favorite new coach this year, even beyond Patrick O'Connell. I just like McDaniel as a coach. There's a lot to like about that dude. But if he's like, hey, cool, let's bring in Tua, what are we doing? I'm going to skip to the Sunday night game before I finish up. I'll take the Bengals. The Bengals are playing really well right now. I have them in the AFC Championship game. I'll get that far ahead and say they're going to play the Chiefs.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm saying they're going to beat the Bills.
I was going to say that would be wow. That
Bengals
game.
at Bills, but I think the Bengals are playing better right now. But that Giants-Vikings game, and I know everyone wants to pick the Giants because
I'm not.
You're not?
Nope.
Wow, you're actually going with a line.
I'm going Vikings in this one.
You think they cover? It's a 3-point line last I saw.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I think the Vikings do win. The third string center thing really worries me against that Giants pass rush. Really worries me.
But it's at home.
It's at home. The Giants secondary isn't that great. If Cousins can get the ball off, and I can't see Justin Jefferson being quiet for like essentially 3 weeks in a row, the Vikings should win. They played each other recently enough. They know each other pretty well. Good point of the Mina Kimes podcast last week that teams keep letting Daniel Jones run the ball. I would like to think the Vikings are familiar enough with that. Okay, I know Ed Donatel is like so locked in on the shell defense that maybe he'll still allow Daniel Jones to run. But I would like to think that the Vikings would know, okay, don't let him run, force him to pass the ball. That's not going to go as well as allowing Jones to get a chunk yardage there and then make the defense really wonder. As poor as the Viking defense has played, come on, that should be an obvious one. So I will pick the Vikings. I don't feel confident, but I'm picking them to advance.
Well, the NFL threw him a bone by not scheduling it in prime time for Kirk either, too.
Well, it's going to get 3:30 if this game goes a little long.
That's true.
If it goes to overtime.
That's true. So,
on the other hand, this is also the clutch Kirk season.
I do think, though, if Green Bay would have won, the schedule's different.
Yes.
I do believe that.
Even if there's mismatch potential with the Niners and Packers, which I don't know. We'd have to think about that more. Yes, that's not the Houston Texans Memorial first NFL playoff game slot.
Right.
No.
And then maybe at that point, is it maybe like Miami and Buffalo?
Maybe.
Or New York and Minnesota?
Actually, okay. It might also depend on, well, the Fox games might be in certain spots too, because I mean CBS is going to have a certain ask. Though you know how that'll. There are a lot of machinations with who's broadcasting what game, because NBC's getting the primetime ones, and I think ESPN was going to probably get Brady versus the Cowboys, so they weren't going to get another NFC game because Fox is 2 this weekend anyway. So I think it probably would have been. Yeah, I think Giants, Vikings Saturday, and Packers, 49ers in that nice late Sunday afternoon slot.
Yep.
I think that's what would have happened.
Yeah, I agree.
It's just that Seahawks, 49ers, Seahawks are a lesser, I mean, it's not the Aaron Rodgers visibility thing, the Packers being a draw. And also, I think that would have been a closer game than what I think Seattle, San Francisco is going to end up being.
Which game, take your fanism off it, but which game do you think is going to be the most exciting? Or which one has you the most personally most like, oh, that's, you know what? I'm interested in that game. I'm going to watch that. I'm interested in that one. I like that one.
You know, actually, I think Jags Chargers could be the closest. I just don't know how it should be between Trevor Lawrence and Justin Herbert. If they're on, that's the game to watch. Otherwise, I actually probably would be Giants Vikings. I think that's the closest match game. I think you got some interesting offensive defensive chess matches. I want to see what Justin Jefferson can really do playoff wise. Can he blow up in the playoffs? Who's the real fraud? I mean, as Aaron Schatz put it in his analysis yesterday, he's like, it's the battle of the frauds. He's like, just kidding. But it's kind of true.
My favorite, what I'm looking forward is Chargers Jacksonville because of the quarterbacks. I'm intrigued with that. But, you mentioned Jacksonville, but Chargers too. I don't know which version of the Chargers are going to show up.
It could be really good.
I think the fact that it's the 2 young quarterbacks, I like that one. Also, I mean, I think you can make a case. People are going to get annoyed with it, but Dallas and Tampa, I think, could be a decent one too.
I think that could be closer. I struggle with picking that. I just hope that it is a well-played game. I hope Dallas, like you said earlier in the show, continues their pattern of coming back from poor performances. Like Dak Prescott does that as well. I kind of like to see the Buccaneers, and as one-dimensional as they apparently are, I'd like to see them put a little something into this game. I think
Dak Prescott, I said this to somebody on Sunday, has thrown some of the most stupidest interceptions I think I've seen since Brett Favre. I saw it firsthand against the Cowboys, but then some of the interception against Washington, it's like, what are you looking at there? Like, it's literally in some other dude's hands.
Yeah.
Some of the dumbest throws I've ever seen.
See, there's also some potential for this game to be really ugly too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if Dak is like actually off, and if the Buccaneers are putting together the turtle offense, oh boy, we could be getting some serious snark from Joe Buck in the third quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll bring the snark.
Yeah.
He won't be afraid on this one. But yeah,
I know Jerry Jones said that there's no way that Mike McCarthy will be fired, but I do wonder, what if it is a blowout with Tampa? Tampa blowing him out. Does he change his tune a little bit? I don't think he does, but
no. McCarthy will be back.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on, is it a coaching thing? But if it's not that, if it's clearly like Dak Prescott has a bad game and their defense has been trending down, if it's other stuff like that, well, maybe there's extenuating circumstances there.
But I think if they win, I think Dallas goes on a little bit of a run here.
Yeah,
I really do.
It'd be interesting if they did. This is the first time. Was it since the 90s that the Cowboys have made the playoffs back-to-back seasons?
Ooh.
It's the first time in a very long time. I heard that stat. I think it was again on the Mina Kimes pod. But well, I mean, it's up on Wikipedia. Just take a look. But they have not.
I'm bringing it up right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. 0607. Yeah.
Yes. It has been a very long time since the Cowboys even made back-to-back playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah, because you're right. The Garrett season was like every couple years.
So I guess by Cowboy standards, this is like borderline dynasty.
Because 06 was Bill Parcells' last game, right? Because that was the botched kick at the end. Romo trying to run it in against Seattle in the postseason. Then 07 was when the Cowboys were really good. Cowboys were 1-2, and they lost the Giants in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Interesting. All right, we got to take a quick break. Then we're going to close up things on this slippery Wednesday. We'll be back after these quick words. All right, we only got a few minutes to the top of the hour here this morning. I did forget one day in history, sports nugget, but it was this. Yeah, I was at that game. Um, and I remember seeing of course, we're talking the Dez non-catch.
Yes.
But I remember like watching. I'm like, there's no way they're going to overturn this. And then I saw Packer players celebrating on the sideline. I'm like, no way, are they going to do it? And sure enough, as soon as Gene Steratore said did not, you couldn't hear him the rest of the explanation. The stadium was that loud. You couldn't hear him the rest of the time. So, yeah.
Well, it seems this general consensus now that he caught it.
No, he did not. Refuse. At that time, he did not.
Just think, had he caught it, then you wouldn't have had the 2014 NFC Championship.
Well, to be fair, Green Bay still drove down the field after that too. So.
That's true. That's true. Oh, speaking of older Packers, you heard the Aaron Rouse news?
Yeah, he's a state senator.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. I had no idea. I saw that last night. Like, what? For those that don't know, former Packer
safety. I was a big Aaron Rouse fan because he was big, and I remember watching a preseason game, and he took out Jermaine Wiggins, the big tight end, if you remember him. And I'm like, okay, that guy's a hitter. Yeah. I remember that game.
Yeah, just got elected to the state senate in Virginia. They had a special election because the incumbent got elected to Congress, so they had a special election. He won by not that many votes, but he won, so he's now in the Virginia State Senate. The highlight that I saw going around on Twitter last night was from the Colts game in 2008, I think it was. And speaking of football players turned politicians, the guy he jumped in front of to make that interception off of Peyton Manning was former Colts tight end Tony Gonzalez.
Oh, okay.
Who, if you recall, was in Congress, U.S. representative from Ohio the past few years. He didn't run for re-election this past year. Mm-hmm. So a future politician stepping in front of a future politician, mm-hmm. and we've all speculated on Peyton Manning being a future politician. Very political moment there in that game back in. I still have that was like October 2008. I seem to remember listening to it on the radio that day. But yeah, I do remember that Colts game. I don't remember Aaron Rouse, like vague, or if I do, it's vague.
Yeah, 37, I believe, was the number he wore.
Yeah,
is that true?
I think it was actually. Well, Aaron Rouse, Packers.
I think it was 37.
He was number 37.
All right.
Good memory.
Look at that. Yeah. I'm good with jersey numbers.
You are. That's true.
Do you think Cliff Kingsbury is going to be the offense coordinator for the Patriots? Apparently, they've researched Cliff Kingsbury as a potential offensive coordinator.
Well, that would be different than.
Didn't we joke about this earlier in the season?
Maybe.
I think we did. Then Cliff Kingsbury was going to be like the head coach or the successor to Bill Belichick.
I think we might have at one point.
Yeah.
I think he can do well as an offensive coordinator. Maybe,
you need a coach to win you a few games at the beginning of the season. That's Cliff Kingsbury. Second half, no, get him out of there.
It's kind of the opposite of the training thing. Yeah. It's like he detrains during the season. It's got to be better than the Patricia Judge. Hey, buds, come on over and coach with me.
Well, it's either if you had to choose between Bill O'Brien or Cliff Kingsbury, who would you pick? Because those are the two that are being floated out there.
I might actually choose Bill O'Brien, but I don't think Kingsbury would. Like I said, I think he would play as an offensive coordinator. I just don't think he's quite there as.
I think if Mac Jones is your guy, Bill O'Brien is the better fit.
And I think that's where they're going. So no, I don't think he will get there for that reason.
Mm-hmm. So, Kingsbury doesn't seem to be the guy that could fit with like a Mac Jones type of quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
So
I don't think he ends up going there.
He'll get a job because he's Cliff Kingsbury.
More likely to go college or pro. And not a pro head coach.
No. I think at this point in time, I think he's going to be a offensive coordinator for an NFL team.
Wonder which one.
I don't know.
I'd say Denver, but they're in the whole Sean Payton and Sean Payton's crew thing. So
this is a weird NFL head coaching cycle. You know what I mean? Like Jim Caldwell is report because he got an interview with Carolina, but he's also interviewing with Denver too.
There's not that many openings yet, but we didn't have the big massacre.
Well, a lot of them were in the season already.
That's true.
Like Denver and Carolina.
Well, now Denver, Anero, the defensive D coordinator, is getting a lot of buzz right now. He's getting interviews.
And where was he a finalist at? Green Bay when they hired Joe Barry. That was my pick. If it wasn't going to be Jim Leonard, I wanted him.
Fascinating. Well, maybe he still could be if he doesn't get a head coaching job.
Yeah.
Maybe.
All right. That's going to do it for us. DP and the Danettes, they're up next. Have yourself a good Wednesday. We'll be back at it again tomorrow, 6 a.m.